So you've had an extraordinarily long career of 40 years. That's
Have.
what I like to call it.
In fact, I've
So
had 44 years now.
44 years.
Yes,
That's
yes.
precision, and that is great. And I'd also like to assume that you're still in the prime.
I hope so. I'm still working as hard as I ever have. So, yes,
Right. That's
yes.
that's inspiring. So can you shed some light on your work and what does a successful and fulfilling career means to you?
I think what happened was, and when I have occasion to talk to people about what I think makes you successful at what you choose to do, you have to love it, and you have to love what you're doing, what you're embarking on. And for some reason or other, when I was young, I started off photographing my bedroom and rearranging it and then photographing it again. And I was 11 at the time. Decorating and styling was just in here. And then I got older. I didn't go to fashion stores. I went to kitchen stores and gardening centres. I don't know why, but I did. Anyway, and then I didn't even think about it as a career, and I went to university and I did PR work and I taught for a little while and I wrote travel. And then somebody said to me one day, why don't you apply to House and Garden, which was the main decorating magazine in Australia? I was in Melbourne, the magazine was in Sydney, 9 kilometres away. And I persisted and got through to the managing editor, and she said, oh, I'm really sorry, there's nothing here for us now. And she said, besides, I'd have to see you, and you're in Melbourne and I'm in Sydney. And I said, you give me a time and I'll be there. She said, oh, I'm very sorry, I can only do 10 o'clock in the morning. So I flew up. I got on a plane and flew up to see her, and I got a job in a magazine next door that went for about 6 months. Then someone bought it and we were all let go. And then I was told about this new American magazine that was publishing, which happened to be Better Homes and Gardens,
Yeah.
one of the largest magazines in America, and they just launched here. So I joined as the decorating editor. Then in 3 years I was the editor, and I built it up over the years because I loved the content. I built it up over the years to be the largest selling magazine in Australia. And along the way, we created a television program that went with it like that, and a radio program, and then online, and then we did a lot of travel. So it just grew and grew and grew. And I was good at it, I think, simply because I loved it a lot. It was every day was a joy for me. And I just would think about the audiences and think about the audience and what was going to benefit them, what was going to be good for them. And when
Exactly.
you do that, you are good at
And
what you do.
there's this thing called you fall out of love with certain things, right? And when you talk about a career that has spanned over this period of time,
Yep.
you are bound to fall out of love, but not in your case because the
No,
love was
no. I think the love is I think it's just I like to change people's lives, and it can be something very small,
yeah,
like how they cook their curry. There might be a tip or a hint that changes what they do with the curry that makes the flavour supreme, and it's changed their lives and it becomes one of their favourite recipes. So if you think about that across the board, there's gardening and there's decorating and there's food and there's all manner of things. So if I could change people's lives, every magazine I produced, I was happy.
exactly. And that is truly inspiring because if we talk about the younger generation and the
Yes,
inception of social media platforms such as, let's say, Instagram, for example,
yes,
Tumblr and all, we tend to gather our interests and they tend to change in a like specific period of time.
yep,
A lot of things that have come into frame
yep.
and our use of social media. So that is something that has really impacted, and it is commendable that having spent so much this amount of time with a specific magazine and you're still
Yep.
rolling ahead. That is great.
Well, I also did other magazines. I just kept on coming back to Better Homes and Gardens. I was working on what was then the country's biggest magazine called Women's
Yeah.
Weekly. I launched a lot of magazines, and then I developed the website for the products we were working on. But then I sort of got into travel because everyone loves it. And the research here was saying that people were budgeting for travel as much as they were their foodstuffs, as much as they were their kids' education.
Yeah.
So I developed that, and it became very successful. And it's who doesn't love travel?
Yeah. So, as far as the magazines are concerned, advertisements are an integral part of it. Okay. So, how do you
Yes.
look at the interest of advertisers in publishing, and what would I call an acceptable amount of influence that someone lets in?
I think advertising is really interesting because a lot of people, particularly on the editorial side of media,
Yeah.
content producers, don't really want to have a lot to do with advertisers. But I think you build your relationship with your advertiser. And again, you work out what's beneficial to your reader. to your customer, to your user.
Yeah.
An airline, you
Okay.
work out what are the things that the consumer should know about this particular airline. How can they benefit when they purchase a ticket from this airline?
All right.
And what are the special additives that they can enjoy? And this is who the airline is and how you contact them. So what that is that's advertising the airline, but you're producing it in such a way that it's beneficial to your consumer. And that's what I would do with advertiser relationships all the time. I would work out how I could create the copy, create the presentation, create the dialogue so that the consumer got the benefit. And then when you said who the advertiser is, it's just as beneficial because if they like the information, telling them who the advertiser is, it might be peanut butter, it might be cars, it might be clothing, it might be anybody. They love what you've said because it's going to benefit them. And you go, this is who it is. That's another benefit because you take the task of having to find out who it is from them.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a more of a comprehensive route, we can call it, and doesn't so an influence. It doesn't influence the content in the manner that people expect it to be.
Yep.
But it serves the purpose, right? Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you can take pure advertising and put it in your product and just leave it.
Exactly.
But you can also build a relationship so you maneuver the advertising to work for your customers.
The right word. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
So they're very thankful that you've given them a piece of information that's useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Julia, what would you suggest to the aspiring designers and creatives who wish to get their projects published in, like, let's say, top publication? The one is yours. And what are some of the challenges involved in doing so?
Creativity is really interesting. It has to be entertaining, and it's a word we don't often use, and we should use it often. You have to entertain people with how you design. It doesn't mean you're making them laugh. It means that you're making them interested, curious. Maybe it's making them sad. Maybe it's making them feel like they should love more.
Exactly. It
all
doesn't have
of
to
that.
be a flat story. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be a flat story specifically. It has to give rise to certain emotions.
Yes, absolutely. That's what entertainment is. So if the creative person thinks, with my design, what am I hooking them in with? Is it an image? Is it how I lay it out? Is it a collection of colours? Is it a mixture of beautiful typefaces? Is it craziness? Is it classic? So you have to work out according to what they're designing for. They've got to put themselves on a stage and hold up whatever they're designing for an existing audience, pretend audience, and go, is this connecting with you? Are you loving this? Have I hooked you in? And if they don't feel as though it is, then rethink your design, because it can be really simple if that's what the message needs to be.
Exactly.
And so it can go from simple, beautiful to crazy madness that makes you go, oh, I've got to look at that design because it's fantastic. But it must also have entry and exit points. So
Correct.
it's easy to access whatever the information is that they're producing with their design.
All right, all right. This was a really insightful response to what I'd asked you, and it was a lot of information involved in it. So I'd go ahead with it. So you'd be receiving a lot of content, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what grabs your attention, and what would be your ideas of an ideal pitch? Because I've seen journalists, I've seen editors that they go mad about pitching. They start ranting when it comes to pitching. They don't certainly like pitches. So when it comes to your idea of pitching, what is an ideal pitch to you?
You know what? We did some research years ago. And are you talking about a page right now? Is that what you mean? Or are you talking about the visuals and the content together, or just the content?
No, exactly. That is what I'm asking you. So when a specific person pitches you his writer, or let's say an article, so how do you like to be served? Do you expect a writer to also have visuals in it, a complete story, or just an idea about it? So what does
Whatever is required. Usually not the images, unless, of course, it's a travel writer. Oh, no, even so. Usually not the images, but they can be part of it. We did some research with the University of Sydney some years ago, who was telling us how people read.
Okay.
So when you're talking about just content, what they'll do is they'll read the heading first.
Okay.
So what you call your story has to be the first thing that grabs you. Then next, they read a little bit of intro copy, 10 words, 15 words.
Okay.
Then what they read is, if you've got boxes of copy on the side, small grabs of copy, they'll read them, and however you put them in boxes, you do arrows to them, whatever. So the small grabs of copy.
All
And
right.
if
So
you,
it's the highlighted content you're talking about, the
yes,
box content.
yes.
Yeah, all right.
If you have images, then they'll read the captions. The body copy, the story, is what they read last.
Correct.
So for me, if someone's pitching a story, I want to know the heading. The
Yeah.
intro has to tell me and hook me in what is going to be the benefit to me. Going to be entertained? Am I going to be informed? Am I going to be inspired? Am I going to get new ideas? And then the box of copy, which usually is a bit of a tip or
Okay.
something interesting to know. And then if the pictures are there, I want to know what the captions are, because the pictures are going to captivate me first, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the body copies last. So you've got a whole lot of ways that you have to get me first quickly. And
Okay.
then if I love all those, then I'll read the story.
Okay, so it's better to have an idea of how people perceive a writer.
Yes, yes.
So when you gather an idea of people's perception towards it,
Yes.
you can work towards that
Yeah.
while pitching.
If you think about now, particularly the shortness of time, if you don't get people quickly, they go.
That's
So it's important that you remember that you've got to capture them, because
correct.
they'll just scroll or they'll turn the page.
Exactly.
The other interesting thing about what the information that we gathered from how do people consume, if you're talking about covers on magazines, just for the moment, you've got 3 seconds to capture somebody's interest. It's either
Okay.
the image or the main cover line or colours or
Yeah.
how you construct it creatively. Got 3 seconds, then they move on.
All right.
Yes.
All right. This is information that I haven't really had
Yes.
an idea about, but thank you so much.
That's all right. So you've got to be clever,
Yeah.
quick.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll pay heeds on that. So
Yes.
how have you seen the architectural and design landscape change since you began?
The business of, as opposed to media.
Yeah, in terms of media.
I think the landscape has become of architecture and design. You're talking about, I think it's in a way become simpler.
Okay.
And simple translates in a lot of ways to expensive. So you have to be quietly stylish as opposed to crazily so. So I've seen quietly stylish become something that matters if you want to be perceived to be wealthy or whatever. But
Correct.
the design that remains, I think, middle of the population level is telling people how best can I describe this, how to put things together, how to construct the look of a bedroom. When they're putting the thick things together in their kitchen, do they work out how to design the jars that they need by? So I think people are learning to style like
Correct.
you do when you were doing a photographic shoot.
Exactly.
That's in the main with design and architecture. But I think modern is considered stylish. However, homey, where you feel cozy and comfortable, is probably more important to the families.
Yeah.
So that anybody who comes to your house has to walk in going, I love being here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Design-wise, if it's modern, they will walk in going, oh my God, this is amazing. So you need to work out which one suits you better. And that's what I think has happened to design. That's very general.
We've also been seeing times that have influenced design of homes, taking into consideration the lockdown period that we had. So a lot of people, when they went back home, they realized the importance of having a home.
Yep.
What are you really when you are in your home? And that was a vibe they try to like their home to reciprocate, right? So it also changed their perception towards their home. And we're constantly seeing a lot of changes in it, right? The modern, the better,
Yep.
but also must feel like home. It must
Yep.
feel you.
Yes, it must feel you, that's right. And it must be open-armed. I can't do it here, but must have open arms for people who come in so that they feel like they never want to leave because it's so wonderful. And when it's like that, your food tastes better, your drinking's nicer, all those sorts of things happen when your home feels homey.
Exactly.
Is the word, yeah.
So it's from lighting to your couch setting, everything influences your subconscious mind.
Yes.
You just need to have a clue of it. This is the part of design and architecture that personally drags me towards it.
Yes.
And I'm having a really nice time with you, this conversation.
Yes,
Learning.
yes, that's exactly right. I'm having a really nice time with you. Rather than be careful how you sit down because you'll disturb the cushions.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
or don't put anything on the coffee table because we've designed how we put. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. They have a much better time when your home is homey. Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can you talk us through your approach throughout your professional journey? I mean, I've heard from you something about it, but I'd like to go in depth about it. What is your approach towards it?
To my journey,
And how important is growth to you? And what are the factors that halt that growth?
growth is, for me, critical. And
All
the
right.
reason growth is critical is because it marks the fact that I am doing a good job, that it means that I am affecting, touching, and influencing the audience for whom I'm working.
Okay.
Because the better what I do, the more people are going to come to me. So
Okay.
growth matters. The other thing, you were saying, what has affected my journey?
No, what has been your approach throughout your journey and the factors that halt, I mean, stop the growth of a person professionally?
There's a couple of things that are critical to me. One is you never give up. So
Okay.
if you want to do something because you know it's going to be good and someone says, no, you can't, you go another way. You just never let anybody, there's a lovely expression which is never let anybody else be your finish line.
Never let them know your next step.
Yes. So if you can't get it that way, get it that way. If you can't get it that way, get it that way. But never give up. And
Exactly.
don't see these things as roadblocks, see them as detours. So that's been very important to me. If I believe in something, ultimately I don't let anybody stop me. And whatever it takes to get there, I'll get there. The other thing is with that, you must, and I don't know whether this is what you mean, but these are the beliefs I've had. You must always ask when you want something, don't think it can't happen, but you ask. And you ask again. And you ask, it's similar to what I just said. And you
Exactly.
ask again. Minimum research we did. If you want something and you can't get it, you've got to ask at least 5 times.
Exactly. There's people from Brazil say that if if you want something, there's already a no. So better go for it. Probably it becomes a yes.
Yes, yes.
A no is already there on the table, right?
So you got it. So those two things. The other thing, and I hope I'm answering your question as you require, the other thing that mattered to me a lot was to love the people I worked with.
Okay.
I needed to respect them and care for them and let them know that I respected and cared for them and that my success was really dependent a great deal on how good they were. So I couldn't beat my chest and say I've been amazing and fabulous. Yes, I have, but it's only because I've had these sensational people
Exactly. Okay.
working with me and for me that that's happened. And so it was always very important that they knew that I thought they were terrific. And they were. They were wonderful. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm just trying to think if that their work, that's my ethos of work, these things that I'm telling you, as opposed to the practical elements of products and what you're creating. And I think those things have mattered most to me and they've always paid off.
Okay.
And the other small thing is women at the moment, women in the world going, I'm a woman, therefore you have to listen to me, or I'm a woman, therefore you have to give me a job, I'm a woman. And I go, women, don't expect all that because you're a woman, expect all that because you're good at what you do.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to give this as a highlight in our article for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But thank you so much for the ethos that you talked about. Your approach was really insightful. I'm personally going to have a lot of notes from this interview.
Good. I hope so. And if I think of anything, I'll email you. But it's been a long career. And the other thing is the aging, because I'm not young anymore, and I'm discovering my generation, as we call it, the sex, drugs and rock and roll generation, as you would know.
Yeah.
With all the wonderful things that happened to us when we were younger. Still excited, interested, busy, energetic, adventuring, all those sorts of things. So when you're doing anything and you're thinking that people are old, you must not think of them like that. You must think of them as doing something different. I've been trying to find a word to replace retirement for a long time, and nobody's been able to help me until the other day when I heard you don't retire, you rewire.
Okay. Okay. You don't retire.
So you rewire. Yes, and that's true. You
That
figure
is.
out what you're going to do now. Sorry.
I think I've heard it in some of a French movie, probably Amour.
Yep.
It has been there. I've heard it.
Yep.
But thank you so much for
That's very good.
putting it ears again.
Yes. Very good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Julia, what now? I'll move on to a media kit. Media kit are
Yes.
gaining a lot of traction these days. So how important do you consider a media kit to be?
Very, very important.
Okay, and what makes it effective?
I think with a media kit, you have to let your advertiser, the potential advertiser, know the ethos of your brand, for starters. What is the very good thing about your brand? And that why question, why do we do what we do? And it's a million different answers. It's because we want to make people comfortable at home, because we want to save dogs, because we want to keep the planet going. Why do you do what you do? So you give them your ethos, but then you have to let them know who the audience is. So who will I be talking to when I read this media kit? And the other thing I think is your imagery with the media kit has to tell the story of your product, so that even if you didn't have any words and your media kit was just images, your customers, your product, your intent, your beliefs, that would do it. So the numbers matter. We need to know successes, and the numbers matter. But I think what you stand for, that why do we do what we do, your audience really matters. Tell me who I will be working towards and how do I get to them. The numbers, but show me, so that if I can't speak or I can't hear, your media kit gives me all the information I need just by looking at it.
Thank you so much. That was a really insightful opinion as far as media kit is concerned. And we at RTF have been asked a lot about media kit. So that's the only reason we are coming with people like you to, give them an idea about media kit, because it has become complex with time. People know what media kit is, but they don't know how to go about it.
Yep. I think, again, quotes. So again, remember how people read really quickly.
Exactly.
So what you want people,
those boxes of tiny boxes of code,
so that they read, pick out what you want them to read, make sure it's what you know they want to read, and make that really easy. So if they're in a hurry, which everybody is, they go, oh, that's their audience, that's what they believe in, that's the numbers, oh, that's what it's going to cost me. Great, I'll read it.
So just remember the mental progression of a reader.
Yes. So you can think about with a media kit, excuse me for interrupting you, if you personally were the media kit, how would you behave in a meeting? What would you do?
All right. So that's when an idea comes in, the way you dress, the way you speak, the accessories that you've got. And apart from that, you're not going to show anything. So, we say first impression is the last impression, right? There's a reason to it. This media kit has to be that first impression.
Yes. And warm and entertaining. And with one or two lovely little stories that make people go, oh, really? And then they remember you.
This is, I'd be very honest with you, this is the best answer to a media kit's question I've got. The moment you said if you as a person, and when you put on a parallel with a media kit, that hit me.
That's it. And I tell you, there's that other lovely expression, which is be the purple cow. Do you know about that? Have you heard that?
I haven't.
So if you want to stand out, you don't have to just be ridiculous. You imagine a field of cows.
Okay.
If one is purple, are you going to notice that cow?
Okay. I mean, that'll be the only cow I'd notice, right?
Pardon?
Purple. That'd be the only cow I notice first, because that's a purple cow.
Yeah, that's right. And when you see the purple cow, all the other ones become invisible.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. The power of rarity.
Yes. And you don't have to do anything ridiculous, just be the purple cow. And I'll give you a personal example. My red glasses, people comment on them all the time. They were so expensive, they cost me $29.
Oh,
that was all. And I've got red ones, blue ones, black ones, all sorts. But people go, there's the lady with the red glasses. Oh, I love your red glasses. And it's a little bit like being the purple cow.
Exactly, it is.
So that's, if you're the media kit, how do you act? And how do you make yourself the purple cow? Which is not anything ridiculous. It's just something small so that you stand out.
All right. You know what? We all, like each one of us, have got these things in our subconscious mind. To be a purple cow, everyone wants to be unique. But it takes effort, it takes grit to at least go to a level where you are aware of your subconscious mind and you act accordingly. So when you talk about a purple cow example, you wear these red glasses or another color, let's say.
Whatever.
It is because you've delved deep with your psychology. And now you are coming up with responses, right?
Yes. So it's just something, and I was just going to say something else to you now, and I've forgotten, like the purple cow. It doesn't matter. Oh, yes. One other thing, when you are presenting, if you are in front of people, you must forget how nervous you feel. If you feel nervous, you must forget that, and you must never be seen to be nervous or frightened, because your job as a presenter, as a speaker, is to make your listener comfortable.
Correct.
And if you're nervous or worried, they're worried for you and they forget what you're saying because they're concerned that you're uncomfortable. So if you
Exactly.
drop your papers, your microphone breaks, the website doesn't work, all of that sort of stuff, always be comfortable, even though you might be dying inside. And if you keep on
Exactly.
thinking, how do I make my audience feel comfortable so they can sit back and relax and not worry about me? And that's often hard to do. You know, you trip on
It
things, you lose your notes, but it's really good advice. I got it from someone and it was terrific.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've got a personal story. So I personally have seen a lot of people being introverts, but the moment they step on their chair, it's a battle inside their head.
Yep.
I'm not going to lose it from here. The
Yep.
moment I sit here, I'm a journalist. I'm not Aryan Trivedi. I'm Aryan Trivedi, journalist, right? So you need to train your mind in that manner.
Yep.
Just be in the moment.
Yeah, be in the moment and make them feel comfortable.
Right. So, Julia, how do you perceive the emergence of social media? We've spoken about social media in some degree, but I'd like to get your responses. How do you perceive the emergence of social media and how has it impacted the content? Because you've seen content, you've been on the bandwagon for past 44 years. So, how has social media come into effect and how has it impacted the content?
I think it's essential, but I was talking to somebody today in the publishing industry and they said the digital world is eating itself somehow and not doing itself any favours. I didn't quite understand what it meant, but I think it's essential. I think, again, how do you stand out in social media? If you've got enormous numbers, that means you're doing something for your audience, but is that enough? Possibly, yes. I think it's fleeting as well, so you have to keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. But and I don't know how to answer you as best I can other than to say it's there, it's existing, it constantly keeps changing, so you have to keep up with it. But at the end of the day, again, I hark back to who are you trying to convince of something and work out what it is that's going to make it good for them, however you present it. So you're making them laugh, and with TikTok and all the entertainment, that's what they want from TikTok. So be really good at all of that. And websites, they want information and they want to go places and get all that. So be really good with your information. Not difficult to work. How many websites do you go on and you just can't work them? They get so difficult, so complicated. I'm probably not as good as I should be with social media, but I think it's essential. And I think, again, my ethos has always been think about your audience and what information they want to get from you and how best you deliver it on social media platforms and work that way.
Okay. So, when you commented about social media saying it is essential, I have lived through the times. I mean, when I was born, like social media era, but I've seen people of my age, people in their 20s, early 20s, getting irritated by social media because of a pattern called doom scrolling.
Yep.
We cannot handle our mind to those degrees, right? We just keep on scrolling, and even if the content was good, it just dissolves the power of that content. It just gets diluted in a manner.
So if you know that, what do you do with what you post, what you put on social media? What do you do that to connect with the people who just scroll? So again, how do you slow them down and make them want to be with you?
Yeah, that's the approach. That's the approach the publisher to take.
Yeah. So again, you've got to pick out something that they just want to know more about. I'm not a really big user of it because, like you, I find that I just scroll.
Yeah.
I go there for essential things. Do I go there for entertainment? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I just think we have to learn to work with it. Like, what are we doing with ChatGPT now?
I didn't catch. I think your voice broke.
What are we doing with ChatGPT now?
Exactly. I mean,
and AI.
I personally have a lot of examples in India itself because India is booming in terms of startups, right? So if we talk about startups, ChatGPT have replaced a lot of people. The manpower is just not there. ChatGPT is literally doing the work of 5 people at a specific period of time.
Yes.
But we are supposed to use it in a manner that is supposed to be used. But I don't think we are on a right track with ChatGPT.
But it does take work away from people, and I use it more as finding out information, but I like to have fun with it as well. So I keep on asking it if I can go on a date with it. And it keeps on saying to me, I'm sorry, I'm not a physical being, but if I can give you any more information. Then another time I'll say, what's your name? I'm sorry, I'm not a physical being. But the other day I got some information about cherries from it, and I said, you're a cherry to me. And it came back and said, I'm very excited to be a cherry for to you, and it sent a little
Yeah.
smiling emoji and a little cherry emoji. So I don't know, it'll become personal at some point. And I heard a very terrible thing about it the other day, because it will grow and grow and grow. People are now using it as a companion, lonely
Yeah.
people.
I think so there's this film by Spike Jonze, Her.
Yep.
It stars Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep.
So have you seen this?
No.
No, I'd suggest you watch it. It's among the similar lines. So it's about a dating concept.
Yep.
So he's a lonely guy and he gets a system, a
Yep.
AI system. Yeah, and treats that system as his partner.
Yes.
And falls so much in love that if he's not with that girl or with that system, he just cannot live. He's lost his will to live. The dependence.
See, that's very frightening that that's happening. It's very scary. I know, because it's very intriguing. I asked it about God. What is God, and does God exist? We're going off on a tangent here a bit, so we better stop. And it gave me the most wonderful answer about God, and it ended up by saying, whatever you believe in is God.
Okay.
It's
So, but there's a line with it, and we need to like have a control over our head
Yep.
when it comes to AI, right?
Yes.
Because these pretty answers, these beautiful answers, they can capture you. They can capture you.
Yes, and I can see how the gentleman will be lost without it. But it's just lonely people can sit there for hours and hours and hours and have conversations about anything.
They do. The conversation with AI has gotten to a degree. You can work, you can plug in your earphones.
Yep.
You haven't talked to people in months, but the moment you reach your home, you've got an AI to talk to, right?
Yep. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
this is a frustrating situation.
Yep. And
Right.
frightening, because it'll
And
just keep growing. Yes.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
It's
But
not
with the
going to
generation,
go away at all.
it's not to go
No.
away. Yeah,
No.
correct.
Yep.
We'll anyway find a way to live with it.
Yes. Yes.
The way the world is done.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what are your plans ahead, Julia, and what milestones are still in your sight to achieve?
I have a big love affair with travel, and I've spent the last couple of years working with travel people, even though I'm doing a magazine that's primarily food based.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because the world is such a beautiful place, and we worry about what's happening with wars and how terrible climate change is and the negatives of the planet. But when you travel and you see, I haven't been to India, but I can imagine it's amazing. When you see, I'm sure, the colours of India,
Yeah.
how extraordinary are they? And then you might go to and I'm thinking nature, glaciers,
Yeah.
plants that grow,
Mm.
animals, waterways,
Yeah.
how people build the most amazing things, the Taj Mahal, the Acropolis in Athens, and you go to Italy and there's the most beautiful buildings that are 2,000 years old. So travel, I think, is just makes you understand what an exquisite and wonderful place we live on this planet.
And it does this one thing where it just takes your mind off of your own life.
Yes.
It just tells you that in this gigantic mosaic of nature, you're just a tiny speck.
Yes, absolutely. You are. You're not even a tiny speck. Some of those vistas that you see are just...
And it just makes you feel that you're only here for some time. You just need to take care of yourself and just look at the wonders, right?
So you go somewhere, and I can't wait to get to India. You go somewhere like the Grand Canyon in America, and you cannot believe what you're seeing. And then you go to the Alps in Europe, and they are beyond beautiful. I'm sure Mount Everest and Kilimanjaro are the same. They take your breath away. So many things take...
I have heard from people. I've been to Kilimanjaro. I've been to a lot of mountain places. Himachal Pradesh is a great place to be here if you talk about mountains.
Yep. So, and you must get there and go, how did this happen? And how beautiful is it?
Actually, yeah,
Yes.
and that is the moment I say, okay, maybe God exists. Okay. It just gives you a lot of questions. And when you're young, it just makes you feel like there's a lot to do. And when you see the monuments, let's say you talked about Grand Canyon. Let's talk about Taj Mahal. They're built by people, right? And people have worked for their whole lives towards it, right? Inspires you to a degree that when I go back home, I'm gonna work.
Yes. So travel, and people love it. I don't know that people love much more. Maybe they love food and wine as much as travel, but they just love travel. And I think it gives them appreciation of the planet. When you talk about God or whatever, I heard somebody say there's obviously a superior designer somewhere.
Okay.
Who's worked it all out and done something. Do we need to do that for him? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But something is doing this.
Exactly.
Something is,
Julia, if you come to India, if you go to, and it's not about following a specific religion, it's just about daily acknowledgement and gratitude that we
Yes.
have towards whatever we have.
Yep.
And yeah, so it just makes you feel like, there's a superior power.
Yeah, something. I mean, you just look at some flowers, all flowers. The leaves are so properly done, they're so even, and the colours are so beautiful. Someone's been drawing that, going, there you are, there's a rose.
Yes.
There's a peppercorn tree, all those beautiful things. Yes. So I love
Yeah.
travel. And then there's different languages, different customs, different people, it's just a wonderful thing. There's barely a person who doesn't get enthusiastic about it. So that's why I like it as much as I do. And I'm my age group, my generation, traveling like mad because they can. Yeah.
It's wonderful. So, I mean, that was it from our end. I had a really great time with you. One of the best conversations I've ever had.
I hope
Not
so.
in terms of learning experience, but like an overall conversation, a great one.
Good.
And thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for your time.